this is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and here's something I don't get to say that often anymore. Here's a BlackBerry smartphone. Yes, indeed, folks. They are still around, well, sort of. Actually, TCL, a Chinese company, makes phones. They license the name and work with BlackBerry under the name BlackBerry Mobile now to make the occasional Android smartphone. So it's not running a BlackBerry OS, anything like that. It's Android, just like the BlackBerry Priv, which is fine. This has probably a more practical and unified design here. It actually has a keyboard exposed at all times, not unlike the BlackBerry Classic, but it's certainly a lot higher end and more modern. And the best part is not just the fact that it's unlocked and it's both GSM and CDMA, so T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, and Sprint, though Sprint will have their own. They'll be selling it in the summertime. The best part is that the price is good. It's $549 unlocked, no contract, no payments. The Priv was kind of expensive. It was a little bit of a hard sell there because it was priced as high as the fanciest and the best of the flagships, but the hardware maybe wasn't quite all the way there. Definitely better now. We're going to look at it now. So right off the bat, I'd have to say this is a good-looking phone in a kind of modern, almost futuristic, Porsche design, BlackBerry-inspired sort of way, kind of on the masculine side. But you've got metal, you got glass, you got that nice-looking QWERTY keyboard with the guitar fret kind of dividers in between. It looks like quality stuff. It feels like quality stuff. In fact, for a 4.5-inch display phone, it feels kind of heavy. It's about as heavy as, well, something like the Pixel XL, which is a pretty weighty phone. It's iPhone 7 Plus when it's in its case. I like this grippy kind of finish here, and it's distinctly BlackBerry. They've been doing that kind of stippled or textured black surface since back in the days of the BlackBerry Bulb with the leather kind of backing on this, because it's easy to grip. It's easy to hold on to, and it doesn't show fingerprints that much either, so good times there. Unfortunately, you don't get anything like wireless charging here, though, despite the fact that we don't have what looks like a metal back. As far as I know, there is metal under there. You can see we have a two-tone LED flash and a 12-megapixel camera on the back. For once, BlackBerry camera that doesn't just outright stink. Now, here's our front 8-megapixel selfie camera or video chat camera, because this is a business-minded phone, right? You're not just selfieing. And this here, this giant window really is probably just for visual symmetry, and things like the proximity sensor and stuff are underneath there. And there's our little LED indicator for messages, because what business messaging phone doesn't have an LED indicator? Obviously, you got your earpiece there, and we have on-screen navigation buttons and the hardware keyboard, which is what you're going to use 24/7 on this, not a software keyboard. The keyboard does support gestures for navigation. Notice right there, that's kind of cool. That's actually useful. I like that. And you can assign shortcuts to all of these keys, so you can become a real wizard at launching your applications and doing things. While you're at it, there's a convenience key on the side, and you press it, and it tells you can assign it to whatever application you would like. So handy. Again, the keyboard feels sort of like a cross between the Classic and the Priv, closer to the Classic just in terms of the fact that it's always exposed. It's not underneath the slider. And when you're using it, the phone feels more balanced as a result. The Priv was always kind of an awkward top-heavy thing because of the slider design. The keys they're kind of a little bit waterfall shaped here. They're quite slippery. That's one thing. Now me, I have moved on. In the day, I used to love BlackBerry keyboards long ago, the days of the Bold and the Pearl, but I've gotten so used to the on-screen software keyboards that I'm actually a lot slower using this. But for those of you who are still using hardware keyboards, well, you'll probably like it. And we have the spacebar here that is also the fingerprint scanner, which works quite well. This is running Android 7.1.1 Nougat. Right, that's nice. Right out of the box, we got the latest version of Android, and it has all the BlackBerry customizations that I don't think of as bloatware or junk. I think that they're pretty good stuff if you're a BlackBerry person, and you have things like, you got your Google Assistant right here too, built in. Who's already trying to figure out what I'm saying. And if you've got notifications or anything like that, I don't at the moment, you'll see a little red asterisk on the top of the application where that's appropriate, just like in the days of old BlackBerry stuff. So you've also got your handy-dandy little productivity panel here now. So you've got events, you've got your calendar stuff, you've got your messages popping up there, and of course it has BlackBerry Hub, which pulls in Facebook, Twitter, all your email accounts, text messages into one. You can get redundant notifications with that though, so you probably want to either use the Hub or turn off the individual applications notifications. I find Hub gets a little bit cluttered and busy, so I haven't been as much of a fan of it as I thought it would be. Now, when it comes to the phone size, you can see it's bigger than the Samsung Galaxy S8, which is a relatively speaking petite phone, despite its very large screen size thanks to the aspect ratio. It's also a bit thicker. It's more like the size of a 5.5-inch phone. Here's my Google Pixel XL, and we're getting to be about the same size. We put them on top of each other. That's pretty close. And something like the LG G6, since it also is fairly petite, well, you get the idea. It's going to be a little bit smaller as well, right there. And the iPhone 7 Plus, being a big phone right here, is one of the biggest footprints for a 5.5-inch phone, and you can see it is a little bit smaller than that. So it definitely has the footprint of a larger phone despite the 4.5-inch display, which, by the way, obviously is portrait orientation in the home screen and stays this way. You can rotate it this way to watch videos. And obviously it's slightly weird and slightly awkward because you have a keyboard over here, but it works and games work, and you'll see me playing Asphalt 8, and that's just fine as well. But BlackBerry Mobile says, well, you know, you're getting actually more usable screen real estate when the keyboard is deployed, the software keyboard, on any other Android phone, because that takes up a good deal of space. Otherwise, obviously, you're not going to get the same screen real estate here. The IPS display has a 3:2, or really more like 2:3, given the portrait orientation aspect ratio. That resolution is 1080 by 1620, an unusual resolution, but I really haven't run into problems with any programs using it. They all seem to scale and handle it just fine. Inside, we're talking mid-rangey stuff. It's got a 2 GHz Snapdragon 625. That's an octa-core CPU with Adreno 506 graphics. This is marketed as a phone for business people, for messaging people, not for those of you who want to play games and play videos all day long, though it's perfectly capable of playing videos, other than the fact the screen is a little bit certainly smaller than normal for videos, and you do have to hold it in the awkward landscape orientation. You get the idea. This is for those of you who send texts and emails all day, the Kim Kardashians of the world who still love their BlackBerries more so than what the smartphones become for a lot of people, which is a pocket entertainment device. Though, like I said, it's pretty capable. See Asphalt 8 going right here. The phone has 3 gigs of RAM and 32 gigs of internal storage, plus a microSD card slot compatible with cards up to 256 gigs. Which is reasonably decent, certainly, and for the price, I'm cool with it, and for the purpose that it's made for. I haven't seen it lag, I haven't seen it slow down, and BlackBerry's customizations here are, generally speaking, fairly light. They have their own customized PIM apps, for example, BBM, which is also available on iOS and any Android phone now, but it's all productivity-minded stuff. Of course, they do have a few other features like DTEK for security. It can warn you about application permissions, and it has a screen shade feature, which seems, I don't know, kind of slightly pointless to me, but hey. And in the interest of security, BlackBerry so far has been good about issuing the monthly security updates for Android devices, and they say that's going to continue here. Now, in terms of major OS upgrades, I don't know. The Priv hasn't gotten the latest Android OS yet, and they haven't said anything about this, so I don't know if we're going to be seeing Android O on this when it's available or not. On the multimedia front, though, the camera is pretty darn good. It's reasonably intuitive. Here you got your flash control, you got your timer, your aspect ratio, your HDR, which is by default on auto, swapping your cameras, switching to video modes. Mode does that. There you go, slow motion video, panorama. The only thing I notice is that it doesn't really pre-focus particularly much. So sometimes if you're shooting a fast-moving subject like your kid or our cat or something like that, you might actually miss the extra special moment. But the image quality from the 12-megapixel camera with a f2.0 lens is pretty decent. It's not going to beat out the Pixel XL or a Samsung Galaxy phone, but you can see the pictures here. We'll put some big screen versions on here. It's pretty good. Even the 1080p video recording from the rear camera is pretty decent, though I found that it looked a little jerky, and the stabilization was certainly noticeably better on 1080p video. So finally, we have a BlackBerry here with a camera that actually is very enjoyable and usable. And the 8-megapixel front camera is certainly sufficient for your video chat use and for your selfies, too. It's pretty decent stuff, and it can do 1080p video. The camera, by the way, uses a Sony sensor, and it has 1.55 micron pixel size, which is comparable to some 2016 high-end Android phones. Now, the software sets it apart, and the software is probably not as sophisticated here, given the fact that the image quality is good, but not as awesome as it is on some other phones. It's still pretty decent stuff here. Has a USB-C connector for charging. It also supports USB on the go for those of you who want to plug in peripherals like SD card, flash drives, that sort of thing. Speaker and microphone on the bottom, pretty loud speaker actually, and pretty clear. And by the way, voice quality on this, we tested this on T-Mobile and on AT&T. Again, it would also work on Sprint and Verizon. Loud and clear. BlackBerry has always been a good voice phone that hasn't changed. And headphone jack is up top. Some people are going to love that. Some people are going to hate it. I'm good with it. And this is where our nano SIM card slot and micro SD card slot are. It says a 3500 milliamp battery, 3505 to be exact. Sealed inside, obviously. This is a unibody kind of design phone, and it supports Qualcomm Trick Charge 3.0. This is an Energizer Bunny, which is in the spirit of BlackBerries of old. And of course, we're not having something like the near e-ink looking display of old BlackBerries here. It's regular old IPS, but it's not a big piece of glass. It's not a very fast CPU. The resolution is not super duper high. Battery is quite large in this, so it's really, really impressive. With moderate use, I really couldn't kill this in less than a day and a half. I think it's going to last most people probably 2 days on a charge. It's really that good. So that's the BlackBerry KEYone, and you know, as Android phones go, it's certainly unique. You're not going to look like every other person on the block using an Android phone, or certainly not like an iPhone. That said, I think the QWERTY's day has come and gone for a lot of people, but not for all people. So for those of you who are still fond of having a little hardware keyboard down here, well, there it is. It's really actually a very nice phone. Mid-range CPU power, but it gets the job done. You saw it play Asphalt 8 just fine. So cameras even, whoever thought I get to say BlackBerry with a nice camera. It's a decent camera there, front and back as well, and nice build and look. So they've done a good job. I think the market for this kind of phone at this point is a bit limited, but it's nice stuff. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos, and thumbs up if you like this video.